So I've just been accepted for my eighth Boston Marathon in 2026. Humble brag. Um, I've never run any other marathon so many times, and I often wonder to myself, why Boston? I guess there are a few reasons that I can immediately think of. Typically, from my point of view, I find Boston is hard marathon to master and asks me a lot of questions. I think quite a few more questions than most other marathons. And that sort of appeals to me. I'm trying to master it, and I've failed to do that in my first seven attempts. It's also iconic, so it's got so much history and special places, often linked to stories in the history of Boston or the Boston Marathon. And also, I think it represents the spirit of runners. All marathons kind of represent the spirit of runners somewhat, I think, but Boston particularly, and particularly probably after the bombing incidents of 2013. It shows more than other races, I think, the resilience of runners and their refusal to be beaten down by life events. And I think today we're going to talk about one person, a story about one person's life story as they take on the Boston Marathon. Hi, and welcome to the Running Book Reviews podcast, where we review books written for runners, about runners, and by runners to help you decide if you'd like to read the book for yourself. We also hope that listening to us chat about running can help keep you motivated about your own running and maybe inspire you to try something new. My name's Alan, and with my co-host Liz, we're going to talk today with author Tom Fitzgerald, accompanied by his son that you may have heard of before, Matt Fitzgerald, about his book, Road to Redemption.
Road to Redemption is a fictional story. It's the story of main character Cooper McKenzie, who's towing the start line of the 1983 Boston Marathon to try and make meaning of his troubled, unimpressive life, or so he kind of refers to it that way in the book a lot. Cooper McKenzie is contending with the stark realities of middle age. He's fully disenchanted with his career. He's struggling to meet the financial needs of his young family, and he has accumulated an unbearable number of what ifs and regrets. Staring down a serious medical diagnosis, Cooper takes inventory of the pivotal moments of his life, things left unfinished, unfortunate outcomes, and a negative sense of self. He resolves to write his script of failure even as his own body is failing him. A story of resilience builds as Cooper makes his way to the start of the Boston Marathon to run a distance he has never attempted, let alone completed. His reasons for risking it all to finish are painfully clear, but with such high stakes, finishing could mean the end. The Road to Redemption captures a personal journey that is altogether universal. We must traverse our lived experience, particularly those moments of vulnerability and shame, to reach the end goal of knowing the truth of what we can do and who we are. A little bit about the author. So we do have Matt Fitzgerald here, and everybody knows Matt Fitzgerald because he's written many, many, many books about endurance.
But so we're not going to introduce him.
Not this time, but we have introduced him a few times in the past, and he has written. I mean, I think probably anybody that's listened to this podcast has got to know who Matt Fitzgerald is. And if you haven't listened to this podcast before, well, I think we have about 7 episodes about multiple books that he's written, and they're not even all the books that he's written because he's written many more. But a little bit about Tom Fitzgerald. Tom Fitzgerald is also an author. He has authored a wide-ranging collection of impactful books, including best-selling novel Chocolate Charlie, the popular fitness title Get Tough, and the critically acclaimed Poor Richard's Lament. Raised in upstate New York on the St. Lawrence River, Fitzgerald completed a series of solo open water swims in his late teens and early 20s before joining the United States Navy and serving in Vietnam as a member of the Special Forces. He later ran the Boston Marathon 3 times. Fitzgerald began working on Road to Redemption, originally titled A Private Agony, in 1982. So this book has been in the making for a long time. completing the novel after a lengthy hiatus at the urging of the second of his three sons, Matt Fitzgerald, himself the author of many books on running. And so welcome both of you to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess the first question is, how did you decide to write this book? I mean, so it's been a long time in the making, but when did it all start? Why did it take so long? And what changed? Why is it now being published?
That's a lot.
It is a lot. Okay, you can pick one of those and start there.
I can't pinpoint when I came up with the concept, but one episode that relates to the whole thing occurred when I was teaching a creative writing class at Riviera College in New Hampshire. I got up in front of the group the first day and drew a parallel line on the chalkboard. And I ticked off 26 different marks. In those 26 marks, of course, are the water stops.
Okay, yeah.
Marathon. So I told my group that I would update them as time went on. Well, time went on, as you alluded to, over and over and over. I gave up the project several times, but always it would come back with a roar. After that, I can't pinpoint, but I started to orient myself to run the Boston Marathon. I knew that was key to the whole thing. But then there were stops and goes, and when I took up running again, so I started getting in shape.
When did you actually get to finish the book? So we know you started it and there were lots of stops, but was it only just finished recently? Have you actually done some writing on it? Because it's only just published, it's brand new.
Yeah.
Has it been sitting around fully finished for a long time, or did you actually have to work on it quite recently?
All the above.
Right on. I can jump in. Yeah.
That's your cue, Matt.
Yeah. Well, like I was there. I was probably 10 years old when Tom started working on the novel. And I remember reading a very early draft of it. I was there when he ran his first Boston Marathon in 1983. And so that is the same marathon that Cooper runs, my dad's character. And then I remember, it's important to understand Tom is full of ideas. So he was not just working on this. He had other ideas. He had other projects. So, I think I tried to review this with him recently, just to rewind history, and we couldn't figure out like why it got shelved, but it was just some other project took its place. And then it was just gathering dust for decades, until I asked my dad about it. I think at like the tail end of 2018, whatever happened with that, encouraged him to find it. And he had to find it on old computer files that were obsolete and couldn't be used with any modern computer. Had to send them away to a service to convert them to a usable format. And then, so yeah, beginning of 2019, I think it was when Tom rolled up his sleeves and got back to work on the novel. And any writer knows this experience. If you wrote something 30 years ago, 35 years ago, and then go back to it, you're going to hate what you wrote.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot, he had a really great start. It was a full length manuscript, but he still had to, basically rewrite it in order to end up with what people can read now.
Do you take caffeine when you run? Lots of people do because it's in gels and stuff. And caffeine's legal and it's been proven to work. There's actual science that shows that it improves your endurance running performance.
And there's anecdotal data from when you have your coffee in the morning and you go for a workout versus when you forgot to have your coffee or you didn't have time and you went for a workout and it was terrible.
And the trouble with coffee is there's a lot of liquid just to get your caffeine dose.
Yeah, so then you have to stop for the bathroom mid-workout. Very impractical. which is where Caffeine Bullet comes in.
What's caffeine bullet, Liz?
It's a caffeine supplement. It's wrapped up like in a candy. So, and it tastes like candy. And you can get 100 milligrams or 85 milligrams, which is about a cup of coffee, but without the liquid.
So we've tried the mint flavor and the chocolate orange flavor, and they're both pretty yummy.
If you want to try them for yourself, we do have a 20% off discount code. So go to the link in the show notes and you can check out what Caffeine Bullet is and get your 20% discount.
Pretty generous.
It is pretty generous.
And we'll get a small benefit, so you're helping out the
Speaking of which, back to the podcast. And so why fiction? Because it seems like this life of the character Cooper McKenzie is it's a reflection of your life, Tom. But why a fictional story instead of like a memoir or something more along those lines? Because it seems like a lot of the things Cooper did are things that uh, that you did as well in real life.
Yeah, I drew from my experience pretty heavily. Once I understood what the theme of the novel was, first I would have to start over, essentially, with what I did. Yeah, I spent a day at Tufts University Hospital in Boston, getting educated about the realities of ALS.
yeah. I guess for our listeners, Cooper, the main character of the book, is diagnosed with ALS. So you actually went into a hospital to research.
And I visited his home. I got permission from the hospital to contact Smokey in Maine. He lived in Maine. So I arranged to meet him. I took everybody with me, whole family. We went up to Maine. March, it was late March, and I interviewed him and his wife. That's a horrible disease, by the way. It's just horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most people in the common world know it as Lou Gehrig's disease because of the famous baseball player who
Yeah,
sort of famously contracted the disease.
yeah,
ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis,
that's it.
which is a nervous degeneration disease.
Yeah.
Sometimes my pharmacy degree comes in useful.
Yeah.
Well, I actually worked I worked in a call center for specialty drugs, and one of the drugs that I very briefly worked with was for ALS, and so I found out a few things about ALS, but yeah, I mean in the book you mentioned some of them, like the between the time of diagnosis and death, there's not a lot of time. And there are some versions of ALS which are like slow progressing, some that are fast progressing. It sounded like Cooper had the fast progressing kind, which just means that you have less time. But basically, within 5 years of diagnosis, most patients have passed away. And the way that you pass away is just your muscles shut down. And oftentimes it starts with the peripheral muscles, but for some people, it starts with the everything that controls speech. So a lot of patients will end up not being able to speak before they have all the other physical symptoms. And so that's often a struggle as well, is that they end up not being able to communicate. So they have, they're uncomfortable or whatever, and they can't really communicate. And then, if their peripheral muscles are also degenerating, it's not like they can take a pen and a piece of paper and write it down. So they just become prisoners of their bodies, which is how some patients would describe it.
I guess the brilliant thing about that within the book, the fact that you brought that into the story creates a burning platform because Cooper has a defined amount of time to kind of basically get his shit together, put his life back together in some way, and the clock is ticking. But reading it, isn't that true for all of us? Um, we just don't think about it like that. When you've got ALS, you get a number often. Probably the doc will say, well, I think Cooper has between 6 months and 2 years or something like that. Um, and I guess you get a sort of an approximate number. We all have a number, we're just not aware of it.
Good line.
Yeah. So that makes for me that made it kind of interesting to read because suddenly I'm implicated. I guess I'm slightly older than these other people, Tom, maybe not quite as old as you, but I'm conscious that I've got less in front of me than I have behind me, and the things that you need to do. And so it's a great story from that point of view. Cooper's also he also tries to get into the SEALs, and I think he's probably less successful with the SEALs than you actually were in real life, Tom. How much did you draw on your experiences with respect to military, his military training?
Yeah, I joined the UDT frogman contingent.
You went to UDT and was it 1967?
Yes, I was made a member of an elite group of SEALs that were trained to insert atomic weapons in harbors to take out the shipping, enemy shipping. Uh, so I had very few others trained. We didn't actually use. We trained with atomic weapons. Strap these weapons to your chest, and then you jump out of a helicopter or a plane or something, and then you would swim toward shore, to put these devices on the hulls of the ships, and then swim back out and get picked up. Hopefully, get picked up. So that was an interesting. Not many people could tell that story.
No, that sounds like almost
Hardcore.
terrifying. Yeah.
James Bond
Yeah,
type
like James
stuff.
Bond.
Yeah.
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 I guess that's one of the reasons why you were such a good swimmer in your youth.
Yes.
Practicing with large weapons strapped to your chest. Yeah.
Mhm.
Here's a weight vest. Swim across that lake.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. There was a big psychology component in the book. It seemed like Cooper was dealing with a lot of demons from his past, and he
Yeah.
ends up having a therapist. Not really his choice, but I guess he has a very supportive wife who I think sees more in him than he sees in himself. So I don't know where did that whole perspective come from? And did you have to do a similar amount of research into to have this therapist character because he seems sort of very good at what he does and
Well, I was married to a therapist for a lot of years.
oh, okay.
She she taught me well.
Okay.
Unfortunately, she's not here.
No, we're sorry about that.
But that's an autobiographical piece too. I remember Dad, you being in therapy at different points when we were growing up, and like working to process your baggage from your childhood, and you see a lot, a very similar parallel process unfolding in the Cooper of character. I think for me, like it really is a book about masculinity in some ways, like healthy and unhealthy masculinity. And this is someone who grew up kind of like a late baby boomer, so that generation. The story is set in the 1980s, and men were supposed to like keep it all inside,
Yeah.
not show vulnerability, and Cooper, I think he has it in him to grow. He just wasn't socialized in a way where he could do it all on his own. And he was fortunate enough to have Tessa, his wife, basically my mom, fictionalized, and with her support, but also tough love at times. So like there's a demandingness in Tessa in her relationship with Cooper. Cooper, you said it well, Elizabeth or Liz. She saw more in him, and so yeah, there's that expression, "Life is a marathon," and in this book, that becomes almost literal, where Cooper's attempt to complete a marathon with advanced Lou Gehrig's disease is symbolic of the growth journey that he's on. Like, it both is and isn't about crossing the finish line of the marathon. That's just sort of like, a symbol, that opens up the possibility for him to move forward as a human being in the time he's got.
Yeah, it seems to me like there are chapters which are kind of milestones of the marathon, with marathon type issues happening as you progress. Can you get to the fire station at Newton? Am I going to make it? That kind of stuff. And then there are life pieces of Cooper's life that occur in that chapter that are kind of almost similar or paralleled to the marathon story. A struggle or a revival or renewed hope or despair that occur at these milestones. Was that the idea of the design of the book, Tom?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's without it being too obvious, it's kind of sort of clear. To begin with, I was thinking, why are we going back to 1950s? And then you read the content of that piece and you say, okay, that fits with where he's at in the marathon at the moment.
Yeah.
Which was for me was pretty interesting. Talking about life parallels, I noticed that Cooper has 3 sons, and I noticed, Tom, you have 3 sons. And I noticed that one of the sons in the book, Luke, seems to have an interest in books and writing, and looks suspiciously like Matt.
Oh, darn.
Did I get it right?
Yeah. Got it right.
Okay, brownie points for me.
Yeah, that the early scene in the novel where the family is at the breakfast table in the morning, and Luke excitedly shares a poem he's just written with his father. So yeah, Luke is 11 years old, loves writing poems. Excitedly shares a poem with his dad that morning. His dad just pops it into his briefcase and takes it to work with him. Cooper hates his job as a technical writer. And so I think, he has something to look forward to in the drudgery of the day ahead in reading his son's poem. So that's probably like sort of like a composite scene there, like based on just general life in our family. But I mean, I remember it as it's written in the book. Like, so yeah, Luke is Matt, and Matt was writing poems at that age and sharing them with his father.
And was his father bringing them to work?
Tom,
Or...
do you remember bringing my poems to work with you
yes.
on occasion? Yeah.
Yeah. And I would show them to Dory, our family friend, Dory. She was always interested in anything you guys did.
Yeah, Dory is Dana in the book. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All real people.
I have
That's
questions
amazing.
about Dana in the book because I was kind of very interested as soon as she appeared. Oh, who's this character? And we were looking around for Dana, but we don't see the end of Dana's story in the book. Is there more to it, or is there something we were supposed to infer from it that I missed? It seemed to me like Dana was an important person and she had her own complete baggage that she was carrying. And
Yes.
that Cooper was an important person for Dana, but she kind of disappears towards the end.
Yeah, she actually never appears in the book. Like she's a character in the
You're
book.
right. She actually never.
Yeah.
She's fully fledged, completely absent character.
The sequel will deal with that issue.
Ah,
Oh, okay. Okay. So that was going to be one of the later questions. So is there a prequel or a sequel that's kind of in the making, or are there any plans for that?
Well, circumstance has limited my engagement, so I guess Dana and Dory is going to have to wait for.
He's editing some other 40-year-old projects now.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
A lot of
Yeah.
unfinished business.
Yeah.
I don't know if our listeners will hear that view off mic a little bit, Sean, but Sean just said that he's editing some other 40-year-old manuscripts. Anything you can tell us about?
Um,
Gabriel
yeah.
is based kind of another story based on his oldest son, and it's accessible for all ages, so it's meant to be accessible to kids, but also adults. So, like a lot of authors do, a lot of his writing has inspired from his own life experiences.
And Joshua in particular for this one.
Yeah.
That's the oldest son. He's not here, of course.
And is there any running theme, or it's a
It's
different
about a
kind of.
squirrel.
Oh, it's
Squirrel.
about a squirrel.
Yeah,
Okay.
Gabriel. It's a fable. Yeah, Gabriel is
Okay.
a squirrel. Yeah, living in the forest.
Running book reviews probably not going to cover that.
No, that's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless the squirrel decides to do the Boston Marathon.
Probably a good read though. But
I have a technical issue around the Boston Marathon and the book and Cooper in the Boston Marathon, Tom. How did Cooper qualify to run the Boston Marathon if it's his first marathon?
Yeah. The era we're dealing with here permitted bandits. Bandits were back of the Packers.
Okay, yeah,
We've
1983.
taken away
yeah,
now,
we've heard
see.
of bandits. Yep.
I thought I'd discovered a flaw in your story, but obviously you thought about this.
He lived it.
Yeah, that's actually, it's actually worth lingering on that for a second because, people don't know. Every runner today thinks they know all about the Boston Marathon, but like in 1983, certain things were definitely the same. Like the crowds were the same. But like back then, so like 2 out of every 3 runners who crossed the finish line were bandits. So
Oh,
like
wow.
qualifiers were vastly outnumbered by people who just showed up and ran. And the BAA, the organizers of the event, had no problem with that whatsoever. If you didn't have a number on your belly, they gave you Gatorade at the drink stations. You were allowed to cross the finish line. They gave you a space blanket after you crossed the finish line. It was known back then as the People's Marathon. There was no prize money for the winner. So it was just like this is an event that goes back to 1896. And so like a lot of that, just those humble beginnings were still very much characterized the marathon back then. Like there was no stigma whatsoever associated with just showing up and running without qualifying. And actually that remained the case for some time. Tom went back, so he ran in 1983 and then came back the next year and then came back one last time. And no, not the next year. It was like 87 and 88. But even in 88, it was still, you could just show up and run. And it only started to change, I think, in the 90s. And of course, then the bombing ruined everything.
Oh, okay. So it was as of the bombing that it became more strict, and now you can't run without a number, basically.
Even by then, they had cracked down quite a bit. It was probably like in the later 90s that
I ran my first
up.
Boston Marathon in 2004, and then they were trying to manage it out. All the it was like, remember, you can't come if you don't have a number, don't do it. We'll weed you out. So they were actively sort of policing it at that point.
I mean, in 83, like my 2 brothers and I crossed the finish line. Like we ran the last mile.
You just jumped in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't try that today, kids.
And do you know why that changed? Like why
Popularity.
did they crack down? Is it just because there were too many people or
Yeah,
is
I
this
mean, yeah, business. Like as the event grew, there was more money in it. They needed to protect the experience for the qualifiers. They wanted to make the field larger, and you couldn't do that by still allowing two out of every three runners to be bandits. So,
okay, fair.
um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it was a very BAA was like a very conservative organization. Like I remember, like in that era, just like being pissed that there was no prize money for like you would have people could only run the elites only two or three marathons a year, and they would make nothing for winning the Boston Marathon, and they really had to be pressured actually to start offering prize money. It was only when people just stopped coming and going to New York and Chicago and the other races instead that they had to it forced their hand.
And why the Boston Marathon, Tom? Is Boston special to you?
It's just probably several reasons, but the main one is just it's iconic. Everybody knows what the Boston Marathon is and means to a lot of people.
Certainly every runner knows.
Yeah,
It was also in our backyard, and also 1983. There weren't nearly as many marathons to choose from, so Boston was
yeah.
Yeah.
kind of the obvious choice.
So I'm very curious about you having to dig up this manuscript that existed on some kind of old technology somewhere.
Ah,
So what'd you have to do to make that happen?
just to give you the background, Liz has just started a training course in IT. So now
Yeah.
she's suddenly everybody's help desk.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, like, what you have to do, like, what computer was it on, and also, I mean, if you had like, I mean, just that's a miracle. The fact that you still had whatever floppy disk or whatever that this manuscript was on.
Yeah, it was on several platforms. I forgot what was first, but I spent a lot of time at Bell Labs doing contract work, and so I used their platform so then I could.
I thought I remember that. Maybe you remember and could chime in here, but I thought you took a floppy disk to a computer shop and they had to do something with it to get it on a more modern.
Yeah, you actually sent it away in
Yeah,
the mail is my my recollection.
yeah.
Wow.
Was it one
We
of these 5 1/4 discs? These really old things? I remember
yeah,
having at
yeah.
work.
We his first manuscript ever is called Mother Daughter Holy Cow, and we came when we that night moved my dad's moved all their furniture out of the house when we sold it. We came across a bunch of old manuscripts, and this was his first one ever. And it was only in the hard copy. So out here, I actually paid someone to type it into Word into a modern thing, and he was recently chipping away at that. But then he moved back to Gabriel and some other projects because it just seemed a little overwhelming. But when there's a will, there's a way to deal with old technology and get it into a modern platform.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's relatively easy to deal with a hard copy compared with dealing with
Yeah,
like a floppy disk or something that no one's computer can read anymore.
yeah. We go back even further than that. I mean, like I remember, in the first 15 years of growing up, like the sound of a typewriter clacking away in my parents' bedroom, which was also my dad's office, was just like it was like the soundtrack of my youth. So like the 5 1/4 floppy disks were like a super advanced revolutionary technology when you'd previously been doing all of your writing on a manual typewriter.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up, I mean, I was born in 1980, so, like I grew up in the 80s and 90s. And my parents had a typewriter. We didn't have a computer at home. I mean, I know that they started to be around, but like there wasn't really any need for most people because like for example in school, we were never forced to have like a clean copy. And if we were, it was like once in a while and you could do it on a typewriter. So So yeah, so my parents had a typewriter, but never had a computer. So I'm always kind of amazed at people that are like, yeah, I was using a Commodore 64 in like 1975, and I'm like, wow, okay, well, I didn't even have to touch a computer until like 2005, you know.
Things happen fast.
They do, yeah. I went from, I guess, very specialized and you only had one if you needed it to being, well, now everybody needs one because you almost can't get around life without it. Like my parents still don't have a computer to this day. And now, just an example is race registrations. You can't mail them in anymore. So guess who registers my dad for races it's me. Um, so yeah, so my dad has my email address associated with his race registrations, but yeah, it's interesting how it's shifted so much. Do you have anything else that's hiding on old floppy disks or old hard disks? Any other manuscripts?
I've got several manuscripts in the pipeline, and I'm unfortunately battling Parkinson's, so
Okay.
I'm not going to get to finish those. But I'm going to take a whack at it.
So
You just got an extra burden, that's all. Just accept the challenge and go for it.
Yeah.
Easy for me to say.
That's exactly what he's doing, though. I mean,
yeah.
like as a chip off the old block, I'm very much like my father. We have, I inherited his passion for writing, his love of running, and I find it inspiring. Tom is 82 years old now. He has Parkinson's disease, and he writes every day still. And it's very inspiring for me because when I'm one generation older than I am now, I want to be writing still and writing well as Tom is doing. So yeah, it's just a great role model to have for me as a son.
And well, how come with all this writing, I mean, the writing was like throughout your whole life, Tom, you've been writing, but it seems like very little of it has seen the light of day, well, until now. So what was the barrier?
The publishing industry has gotten very stingy.
Yeah, what you need is to get somebody from your family to start a publishing company, and in that way you might find it easier to get things published.
Yeah,
Yes.
the other problem was he had kids. Kids ruin everything.
Yeah.
He published early on in his life, and then had to support a family, and things get harder to publish. So some of his more recent projects were self-publishing, which we're still doing, and obviously Matt's publishing company came in handy for Road to Redemption.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, Tom was actually very successful early in his career as a novelist. His first published novel, Chocolate Charlie, came out in 1972 or early 70s,
Yeah.
and did very, very well. Movie rights were optioned. There was no movie made, but it was off to a hot start. But the thing is, like, if you're going to make it as a writer, like, especially if you have a family as well, because I was born in 71, my older brother in 68, and so like either you can afford to pay all the bills for your family through writing alone, or you can't. And if you can't, you need a real job.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and then I just remember my dad coming home. He would have a very long commute in the morning to a job he hated, had his soul sucked out of him for 8 hours of the job, had a long commute back, would just be, tired and cranky, and would just have to try to squeeze in some of the writing that fed his soul in the evening or the weekends, whenever. Like I remember seeing this growing up, and like, I was 9 years old when I decided I wanted to be a writer when I grew up. And the lesson I took was, don't have 3 kids in your 20s. Focus on the writing, like get a foothold, and then see about a family.
Well, don't tell his old employers, but he was able to get some writing done at work.
Yes, just like Cooper in the novel.
That's great.
we could talk about our own thoughts on the book. But what would you like people to get out of reading the book, Tom?
To get them to feel profoundly. People have alienated themselves from emotion. I'm trying to bring them a little bit back. Sappy, sloppy Irishman. I can't go anywhere without a tears, handkerchief full of tears. That's the first time I've admitted that to anybody.
There's certainly some sad moments in it.
Do you think that that now we're doing better with men in society, like letting them feel things and not having them have to bottle everything up like it used to be, or do you think that um, modern gender roles are a little bit more overlapping and inclusive, or do we still have the same problem?
Title for one of my books that will never get written is The Problem with Men. There seems to be two camps. One is the traditional that you were referring to, and the other one, yeah, books like Demonic Males is a fairly recent book that no one read. So there seems to be two those to go with the traditional route. They do. They come up with titles like The Demonic Male. So yeah, it's still there's still a market for or place for the traditional book on masculinity.
Okay.
Needs more airing.
Still more work to be done.
Yeah.
So
Well, you certainly got me to feel some things profoundly while I was reading the book. So you got at least one successful outcome.
If somebody's listening and they'd like to get a copy of the book for themselves, is there one place that you'd like to direct listeners, or any place that they get a copy is fine?
yeah, any copy, any venue.
Yes, this was alluded to, but part of the reason I'm on this call is that Road to Redemption was published by 80/20 Publishing, which is a small endurance sports focused book publishing imprint that I started a few years ago. And nicely, we have a distribution and sales partnership with Simon and Schuster, which everyone listening has heard of, one of the big five publishing conglomerates. So because of that, even though we're tiny, you can get a copy of Road to Redemption pretty much anywhere books are sold. But a good place to start is our company website, which is 8020books.com. So that's 8020books.com.
Perfect. So we'll put that as the link in the show notes.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. And are there any places online where we can follow your work, Tom? I don't know if
There's a
Matt,
website.
there's a website. Okay.
KingsleyBooks.info.
Sorry, what was that? I missed it.
KingsleyBooks.info. KINGSLEY books.info.
Okay. And so those are all the books that Tom is publishing or has
Correct.
published. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. So we'll link that in the show notes as well. No, I'm guessing no, you're not on Instagram, Tom. Instagram, Facebook.
You're not a TikTok celebrity, Tom?
How'd you guess?
Me neither.
You found me out.
Not yet. There's time.
Okay, that'll be the next project or the next book promo tour on TikTok. Is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you'd like to mention?
Can't think of any.
Okay, cool.
How about you, Matt? Anything that we didn't ask you about, but that you want to say or mention?
I could give away the ending.
Probably not a good idea.
Yeah, that would be fun. We've spent the whole
We tried so
spent
hard
the whole
not to give
podcast.
away the ending.
Yeah, you could give away the ending and I could edit it out afterwards. Yes.
Okay, you know what? Funny story. I was on a long run with a friend and she had read a book. She basically told me the entire story and I still read the book anyway. So, just goes to show you that sometimes it doesn't matter. But let's not give away the ending.
Two burning questions that keep readers turning the pages in this one are: one, and I'm not giving away anything here. One, does he finish the marathon?
Yeah.
And two, does he live or die?
Yeah.
So that's what pulls you along as you're reading the book. Those two
Mhm.
questions.
Yeah.
And he gets he I would say his training is suboptimal. Very very suboptimal. And the book's very realistic. So I'm thinking, okay, as I'm reading it, I'm thinking, okay, his training's very suboptimal. He's going to have a tough time.
Mm.
Um, I think he has quite a tough time. Yeah.
That's fair.
At some stage, it's like, oh, a Cooper needs to sit down and recover a little bit, and I'm thinking he's not even in the Newton Hills yet. What's he doing sitting down now? Which shows how invested I was while I was reading it. Good stuff. Okay, we can give our potted summaries and outro. So a summary on Road to Redemption by Tom Fitzgerald. Tom is a great name, by the way. For people who don't know, my full name is Thomas Allen Miller. My grandson is called Thomas. So good choice of names. Nothing to do with the book or the summary. Let me get on with it. First of all, the book is clearly well researched, and that shows itself in the book in terms of the realism of the scenarios. So you get invested because the thing feels very real, and it's very real because it's well researched. It's either researched from the life of Tom, or as he told us, he went out and visited people who had the ALS disease to understand what it meant. No, so I guess not only I've actually made some notes here. Not only was the Boston Marathon itself well researched, I got to run it again because I knew all the milestones that were being described to me. But also the psychologist was obviously well researched. The SEAL training was personally experienced. Um, the alcoholism was obviously well researched. I don't know where that came from. We didn't talk about that, but that's fine. 1950s schoolyard environment felt very real. I went to junior school in the 60s, but it felt just like my personal experience to me. That made it, superb, realistic reading and immersive from that point of view. The characters are flawed. Nearly all the characters are flawed. I think Tessa is the only one who isn't. She's an absolute angel, but I think they're flawed in very realistic and non-cliche type ways. Even simple things like when Cooper is talking to his children have children type responses of ignoring him or saying something entirely not related, and you go, "Oh, that's exactly what children would do." The writing is such that I think everything is not always explained, certainly not overtly explained, and it leaves you to imagine the rest. If you can piece all the clues together, you can sometimes get. You don't have to imagine it. You can put the puzzle together, but I tend to not detail read, try to experience read. What am I feeling here, etc. So I tend not to put the pieces of the puzzle together really well. Um, so so that leaves me imagining, well, where did Dana go? And then because you're imagining that and you're trying to put that together, you're very immersed in the story. So it works. It was as a piece of writing, it works brilliantly from that point of view. I'm thinking, so how did you go about forgiving your father, Cooper, in the story? Why do the kids behave like they behave? in the story. And so the fact that these things are not neat and sort of tied together helps the immersiveness. I think ultimately, life can be hard and a marathon is hard, but neither of them are over until they are over. And there's always potential for positives. I think that's kind of the net take-home message that I got from the book.
Yeah, I guess you summed that up pretty well. I guess I'll just add, for me at the beginning, I found Cooper a little like rough around the edges. He was, a little impatient and, but by the middle of the book, you kind of start to understand why that is, and also, what his wife Tessa, who like Alan said, seems like a complete angel. Like you're sort of like, wow, why does she put up with this or that that Cooper does in the book? And actually you kind of start to understand it's just because she sees through all of that. And it kind of makes you realize, sometimes people are together, it's because they bring out the best in each other. And I think that's kind of the story. I mean, you don't know so much about Tessa's background, but I'm guessing that, she was the best version of herself in that relationship, and Cooper was the best version of himself in that relationship. And so I don't know, I found that it was a true testament to just, the imperfection of relationships, but how, they work. They're not perfect, but they work. The main character is pretty hard on his body. He absolutely destroys himself in training and the marathon. And yes, you could say that he probably got to his full potential in the marathon, or close to his full potential. As Coach Matt, I think Coach Matt would have been proud.
Oh yeah.
Proud of Cooper's attempt. I mean, despite, what we mentioned about his little of like incomplete training, maybe, let's say. In terms of running fiction, we've covered a few other running fiction books, and this one is a bit different in that it's not about some superstar runner at his redemption on the track in a final track, because I think some of the other stories we covered were a little bit more that. This is more the story like a back of the pack adult runner, that's, just kind of like everybody else, just there, trying to run their best,
Just
maybe
trying to get it done. Yeah.
Get it done.
Except
Yeah.
they have ALS, of course.
Yeah. So he's got a few more challenges than maybe like most back of the pack runners, but I think that he's very relatable in that way. In terms of who is it for, I think that the book it's definitely, there is an underlying running theme because of this Boston Marathon theme that's throughout the book. But I think, you don't have to be a runner necessarily to get into the story, to enjoy a lot about life trauma and how it can affect our view of ourselves and our life choices. So
we really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us, Tom. It's an absolute pleasure.
You're welcome.
Thank you both.
yeah, thanks for coming on as well, Matt, and thanks for letting us know about this book.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Running Book Reviews. A big thank you to the publisher 8020 Publishing for providing review copies of the book. Big thank you to Matt and Tom, and you heard Sean, Tom, one of Tom's other three sons in the background, for spending time with us today. If you'd like to leave us feedback about how we can improve the podcast or want to suggest a book you'd like us to review in a future episode, please leave us a comment on social media. Don't be shy, get your comments in. On Facebook and Instagram, we are Running Book Reviews, and on Twitter or X, we are reviews_running. If you don't follow us on social media, follow us somewhere so you can find out about new episodes. Or even better, subscribe to the podcast on whatever your favorite streaming platform is. If you've been listening for a while and you'd like to help us out, here are a few ways. Spread the word, share the podcast, share it now, do it now with one of your running friends.
Actually, some of you have been sharing because our listenership has been up lately. So just
Yes,
keep
it's
on
been going
sharing.
up a little bit, but we still have a lot of upside, so let's keep it going. But keep spreading the word. We still haven't found out who gave us the 1-star review on Spotify, but we think that was an accident, and we're going to retrace that at some stage. You can leave us another 1-star review if you want. Just go to Spotify. You can do it out of 5 stars, or Apple Podcast, or you can leave us a written review on Apple Podcast. We prefer 5-star reviews, however. We're also on Buy Me a Coffee, where you can go to buymeacoffee.com, look for a creator called Running Book Reviews, and you can see various outtakes and uploads that we've done, little extras, photos, little audio snippets, etc., etc. You don't have to buy us a coffee, but there's an option to do that if you want. That's all today from Running Book Reviews. Bye for now.
Bye.